This is where I sit every Sunday morning. My wife and I get here about 10 till 9, sit with the same group of friends to our left and to our right, catching up on how their week is, how their kids are doing, share what's going on in our lives a little bit. But as a leader in the church, something else is going on. Sort of looking over people's shoulders, sort of half paying attention to what's being said, because I'm watching to see how many people are here. I know how many people should be sitting in these seats at about 10 till 9. I know how many people should be sitting around 9 o'clock when the service begins. And if there's a lot of people filling up, then I start feeling great. I go, this is a good weekend. But on the other hand, if not too many people are showing up, then I'm asking all sorts of questions. What's going on with the weather? Maybe it's a bad weather day. Maybe it's a good weather day, so people stayed home. Maybe they don't like the topic or the speaker or something else like that. But that's what I'm thinking about all the time. Who's in the seats? Are they young? Are they old? What's their ethnic makeup? Because we're trying to reach more of a diverse population, so I'm paying attention to that. And by the time the service has begun, I'm so distracted I'm not even engaged. And it takes me 15 minutes into the service to sort of engage and get into the right frame of mind. And then, about halfway through the service, we take an offering. And this is when I can get really messed with. I've worked at this place for over 16 years. And I still can't get over that feeling when someone's dropping in something in that offering plate, that part of that goes to pay for what I do. And it pays for the rest of the staff, and it pays for these lights and all our programs and all the different things we do. And I sit there Sunday after Sunday and I wonder, are we spending those folks' money in the right way? Really? Would they feel great about how we're investing their resources? I hope they do. I hope they do, but here's the truth. Some days I'm not quite so sure we're making the right decisions. Some days I'm just not quite so sure. And the next thing I know, the service is over. You know, we had a great talk on the stage, and I'm sure people responded to that, but here's the truth of it. By the end of most services, I am so distracted. I have not met with God. I have not experienced His presence. I haven't grown deeper in my relationship with Him. And why is that? Why does that get in my way? Does it get in your way? Do you ever have times like that where you're distracted and you're trying to count heads and figure out what's going on and whether the offering is big or little? Why do we do that in church leadership? Why do we do that? These questions I've been wrestling with for more than a decade. But back in 2004, we decided to come at this a different way. What we decided to do was ask the congregation themselves. And we learned so much by just listening to our congregation, by asking them different questions. And then about a year ago, someone asked the question, does this just apply to Willow, or does this apply to other congregations as well? We said, I don't know. Let's go find out. So we went into 30 other congregations over the last several months and listened to over 20,000 people tell us about their spiritual lives. Tell us about their relationship to Christ and what was helping them grow and what wasn't helping them grow. And what we learned was incredible. And it's changing the way we look at our ministry and how we do church. And that's what I want to share with you over the next few minutes. Some of the things that we're starting to learn. Here, let me show you. Okay, so let's start by getting on the same page relative to what it is that we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is help people who are far from God, okay, become disciples of Christ. Folks who are characterized by their increasing love for God and their increasing love for other people. That's how we'll define a disciple of Christ. So what we're trying to do in our churches is help people make this movement. And the way we go about doing that is we create a variety of programs and services for people to participate in. On the weekends, we hold worship services. On the weekends and throughout the week, we teach classes. Okay? We organize to get people into small groups, because that's a good thing. Fourth, we give care to people in need. And fifth, we do all this in a way that gives opportunities for people to serve, to volunteer. And you could add whatever you want to this list of different activities and programs for a church. Okay? The bottom line then is, here's how we think about doing church. This is our strategy. We try to get these folks engaged in these sets of activities. So participation is a big deal. Because we believe the more people are participating in these sets of activities with higher levels of frequency, it will produce disciples of Christ. People characterized by increasing love for God and other people. That's why every Sunday morning I sit up in my seat and ask the question, how many? How many people are here? It's because I need to know how many people are here to know whether or not I'm producing more disciples of Christ. I know that might sound crazy, but that's how we do it in churches. We measure levels of participation. As I mentioned in 2004, we did some research here at Willow. And then over the last year, we invited 30 other congregations to participate with us. We've now listened to over 20,000 people who attend these churches. And we've learned an incredible amount of things about what really helps them grow and how close they really are to becoming disciples of Christ. The first thing that we learned is that increasing level of participation in these sets of activities does not predict whether someone's becoming more of a disciple of Christ. It does not predict whether they love God more or they love people more. So if that doesn't predict it, what does? Well, what we discovered was a spiritual continuum where you can look at your congregation and put them in one of 5 different segments. And the segments are aligned around someone's intimacy with Jesus Christ and how important that relationship with Christ is to their life. Let me illustrate. The first segment we looked at were folks who were just exploring Christianity. Most of these folks believed in God, but they weren't so sure about the Jesus thing. Okay? Second group of people we looked at were folks who loved Jesus, who had a relationship with Him, and were growing in that relationship, but fairly new in that relationship. The third group is folks who were close to Christ. Their relationship with Christ was important to them on a daily basis. They might pray on a daily basis, possibly read their Bible, would have thoughts of God on a regular basis, okay? And it was a closeness in their relationship. But there was a fourth segment that we looked at, and these folks were really centered on their relationship with Christ. Their relationship to Christ was the most important relationship in their entire life. And we also found an interesting fifth set of people. And these folks identify themselves as stalled in their relationship with Christ. They would say Christ exists. They would say they have a personal relationship with Him and that He is their Savior. But they are not investing time on a regular basis in that relationship. Now, what's strange about them is they're actually investing time in church events on a regular basis, but not investing time in their relationship with God. And what we learned is that as someone moved from these stages, their intimacy with Christ, their love of God, their love of other people, all went up and to the right. Now, the third big discovery was that each of these different groups of people had different needs. Now, the problem is most churches come at it as a one-size-fits-all. Right? Everybody in our church should be involved in this class. Everybody in our church should be involved in a small group. The truth is that everybody shouldn't be doing all of those things. What we also learned as part of that is the church activities that most churches do are most helpful in these stages of a person's spiritual journey. Churches do great things to help people in this segment, or at least the 31 churches that we looked at. And the other types of church activities we do are less helpful for these groups of people. These people are the most satisfied with local churches. And then as you move down this end of the spectrum, these folks have increasing dissatisfaction. They're disappointed with what the role the local church is playing in their lives. And increasingly, these folks are thinking about leaving the church, which is just incredibly sad. The people who love God the most are the most disappointed by their local church. Now, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We've learned so much more, and all of what we're discovering is rocking our world here at our church. And if it is true, then it has significant implications for you as a leader and for your congregation. So let's talk about those implications for just a little bit.
biggest thing is we need to ask different questions. We need to go beyond asking how many. We need to understand, are the things we're doing helping people grow in their intimacy with Christ? So it's okay to ask how many, but we need to go beyond that. We need to ask not just our staff members and our key volunteers what's working. We need to ask the participants themselves. And we need to deeply listen to what they tell us about what they need, what's working, and what's not working. That's the biggest implication. The second implication for me, and the thing that I've learned a lot, is that we cannot do this alone. We have to do this together. It was one thing to study just the Willow congregation. When we went beyond just studying Willow and then looked at the 30 other congregations, that's when the lights really went on for us. That's when we knew that we were on to something, because it wasn't just true at Willow, it was true in almost all the other settings that we looked at. And so I invite you to tell us what's working and not working in your church. I invite you to dialogue with us about what you've heard today. We wrote a book called Reveal, which shares some of the highlights of this research. We also have launched a website, which is really a hub of communication with more insights from the research that we want to provide on a regular basis to you. But it's a place for you to comment on what's working and not working in your local church. This fall, we are entering a whole nother round of research. We want to survey over 500 additional congregations sometime in the next 12 months. And we're asking you to consider being a part of that group, free of charge. What it would entail is exposing your congregation to a short survey where we ask them about their spiritual life and the role your church is playing in their spiritual lives. We would get back to you a summary report of what's going on in your church. And then we would pool all that information together to continue our learning so that we can make that available to the rest of the community. Here's the deal. Here's our dream. Our dream is that we fundamentally change the way we do church. That we take out a clean sheet of paper and we rethink all of our old assumptions, replace it with new insights. Insights that are informed by research and rooted in Scripture. Our dream is really to discover what God is doing and how He's asking us to join Him in transforming this planet. We can't do this alone, and we need to do it together. And I just invite you to be involved in this effort with us.